Sir Jeff, you were talking about like some of the mental things that you were experiencing,
Yeah.
and I remember when I met you, I saw you and I told you that I don't know what I was doing. I had a business that I had basically no direction. You just give me the card and say, yo, come talk to me. And I had that card for like a month, and because I was hesitant to call, I didn't know what to expect. When I call
Right.
and thing and I came to visit you, you were speaking on the importance of mindset and
Mm-hmm.
changing your mindset and your perspective. Coming from all these, I wouldn't say mental challenges, but like emotional challenges that you were experiencing. We know that
Yeah.
emotional challenges can affect how you think and how you know, internalize
Absolutely.
things and all of that. How did you become who you are today? What were your steps to
Ooh.
mental enlightenment?
Oh boy. Well, I had to change a lot about me, and I had to get around some different people for sure. Boy, the steps I took, trying to recap like 7 years into a couple minutes or thereabout. Um, well, the first thing that I had to change is that I had to realize that I had control of my life. A lot of us blame our circumstances, we blame our situation, we blame the past for our present, and we blame the future for society and how things have been set up against us. And that's the first thing I had to change, emotionally and mentally, is realizing that the choices were mine.
Yeah.
And that starts the biggest difference in most of our lives. Is a lot of us go through a system of processing. That's what I call formal education. It's a system of processing us into these particular types of people. The second you step out of that system, that societal system, that you go here, you go here, you go here, you go here, and you open up your mind to say, wait a second, but I can go anywhere,
Hmm.
that becomes a whole new world of thinking in and of itself. You know, I'll give you just a quick example on that. I have a client, they're resigning from the job, and the HR department wouldn't accept their resignation. And I just thought that was so ridiculous that you're not accepting my resignation. I'm just not going to show up to work anymore. Like, I don't need you to accept my resignation. I'm just done. I'm not show up.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
you know and but they just felt so trapped in the system, like, oh, I can't leave because they're not accepting my resignation. I'm like, wait, what? Like,
All
them
you have to
come
do
to
on the
you and I
show.
put a gun to your head? Like, I don't understand. Just don't show up. And even by the system, if you don't show up to work for 3 days without communication, you've
You're
officially
fired.
resigned from you. No, you resigned.
Oh, yeah,
By
yeah, yeah, yeah.
law, if you don't show up for 3 days, you automatically resign from the job. So I was
Hmm.
like, I couldn't understand this whole thing that they couldn't leave the job because their resignation wasn't being accepted. And that's the start of it all, realizing that we have choice. So that was the first big thing for me. The other big thing for me was that it wasn't about me. And life isn't about us, life is about others. And that sounds really cliche and corny and cheesy, but it's true. Even if you're in this world and your current mindset is, yo, me I go make that money, me I go make them stacks, racks, me I go full up the bank account, and that me depend. I don't know what Jeffrey I talk about,
Yeah.
we there for other people. Well, here's the reality of it. All that money you're going to make, it has to come from other people. You can't pay yourself. That's just moving account money from one account to another account. You need people to pay you if what you want to do is make money. If you want to be prime minister, you need other people to vote for you to be prime minister. If you want to have a successful company, you need other people to work for you. No matter what goal it is that you want to share
You
with
need
me,
other people.
you need other people. You want this podcast to be successful? It doesn't matter how many times you listen to it, it matters how many times other people listen to it.
Yeah.
And that became a big one. So I realized I had control and choice over my life. I realized that probably the biggest element of life was how do I serve and give back to others in a meaningful, valuable way. As you always hear me say, how do I add value?
Mm-hmm.
And I think what came after that was really forgiveness. Like I had to forgive my father, I had to forgive myself, I had to I had to forgive the system for putting me where I thought it had put me. I had to forgive people who gave me advice, but I was blaming them for feeling that they gave me the wrong advice. And I just had to and what forgiveness does is holding on to things doesn't punish the other person. Holding on to things only punishes
Punishes
us,
you. True.
right? And so in forgiving, I was able to free myself a little bit each time. Now, one of the things is that as a child, we're taught forgiveness is saying, I'm sorry, and the other person going, I forgive you, and everything's fine after that. But that's
Yeah,
not
yeah,
real
yeah.
forgiveness, you know? Real forgiveness, I like to look at it this way, is that when there's somebody who's wronged you and there's real forgiveness to free yourself, it's like you're carrying a boulder. And every time you consciously forgive that person, you're only chipping off a pebble off of that boulder. So you
Mm-hmm.
have to do it all the time. Now, depending on how long you've been carrying this anger, resentment, or blame, it's going to be the bigger the boulder is. So it's going to be the more forgiveness it takes to chip off more of that boulder. But you never
Tiring.
chip off more than a pebble.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I came to realize is it chip, 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 chip. But you don't feel the weight disappear till it's that last pebble off. And when you chip off that last pebble, all of a sudden you go, whoa, I'ma feel
Mm-hmm.
light. I'ma feel so light. And the reality is that you freed yourself from that person, from that situation, from that toxicity. And now you're able to make better decisions, serve people better, add more value, and move your life in the direction that you want to move it. So, I mean, there's a lot of other things I could go into talking about, like establishing your vision, taking time to figure out what gifts you have, unlocking your purpose, mastering yourself and your self discipline, developing a winner's mindset, building your moral compass, improving your communication skills to allow yourself to get your thoughts across, building your relationships and taking assessment of your current relationships, um, and working through all of those things. But if I was to give you like the top three things that you can do today to radically transform your life, it would be those three things. You know, realize you have choice, choose to serve others, and forgive and release yourself. Those would be my top three things to your audience on shifting your mindset.
And oh, that's truly profound. Can you like tell us how you adjusting your mindset affected your life, by the way? Can you give us like three examples
Oh,
or
it
or
totally transformed my life. It
yeah.
totally transformed my life. I mean, the first thing that happened is when I realized that I had choice, I left retail. Like this thing that I had known all my life. I had my degree in business. I only knew retail. I only knew business. And when I realized I had choice, I was like, wait, but I don't like being here. I'm not one
Mm-hmm,
there.
mm-hmm.
So I'm there. So that was like the first major change. I started trying a bunch of different stuff. I had some money saved up, so I started putting that money into a bunch of different business ideas because I had committed myself to figuring out what is it that I want to do, what is it that's going to give me joy and fulfillment. And so I began, because I had choice now, I chose to expose myself to as many different industries as possible because maybe I had a love for food, but because I never really was into cooking, I never figured it out. Or maybe I had a love for marketing, but because I never did marketing, maybe doing it, I'll figure it out. So I've just started jumping into any opportunity that came my way. And over a 4 year period, I did network marketing for Organogold and Amway. I did party promotion. I opened a cafe long before cafes were cool in Jamaica. So just want to add that.
Big up
I put
Ragamuffin, big
up,
up Ragamuffin.
right? I did a music show called Moment of Jazz, which was like a wine and jazz night. I worked with a food production company called Bragadaps, where we did Jamaican snacks. I worked with a consultancy group called Brand Profit, and I still do some work with them to this day. Um, and other little odds and ends. I eventually became the financial controller for a marketing company called It's Pixel Perfect. And then I eventually moved from financial controller to general manager for the company. I did that for a while. But what ended up happening is that in doing all of these things and trying my hand at all these things, I eventually, through help of a mentor and some guidance from people around me, I became aware that no matter what the job title was, I was
Mm-hmm.
always motivating people and teaching people. And that's when a mentor of mine said to me, "Hey, you only do those two things. Why don't you just do those two things?" And I went, "But nobody don't pay for that." And he was like, "Yeah, there's a whole career called motivational speaking." Now, the joke about that is I was 25 at the time when he told me. I had been all over the world, like I said before. I'd done Europe, I'd been to Australia, I'd been to China, Puerto Rico, all over the US, all over Canada, Panama. So I was exposed. I had a university degree. I lived overseas for 6 years. Kind of going back to your first thing, like I came from what would be called a good family. I had a big
Mm-hmm.
network, I knew business, I knew money. And yet, at 25 years old, I had never heard of the business called motivational speaking. Like, you could have told me that there was a man who plant crap every day, and I would have been just as shocked at the fact that there was somebody who did motivational speaking, you know? And so that opened up my mind to this whole other industry that I never heard about. And I remember watching that Les Brown speech. It's one of his
Oh
more
my
popular
gosh.
speeches.
Les
Yeah,
Brown. Oh my
it was
gosh.
was one of his more popular speeches. One, it's like a 30 to 40 minute one, and he's presenting, I think, at a football stadium.
Mm-hmm.
And I just remember watching it, and I just got this feeling like, sometimes you see something and you're like, I want to do that, or you see something and you're like, I could do that. I was watching it and the feeling was, I should do that. Like, I was at such a place in that moment that I was like, I should be on stage with Les Brown presenting. I shouldn't be
Mm-hmm.
anything less than that. It was the idea of having to like get in the industry and work my way up and build my name and build my brand. None of that connected in the moment. I was just like, I should do that. Um, so those changes led me ultimately to that decision right there that I was going to be a motivational speaker. And it was from being a motivational speaker, I started figuring out everything else in the sense that, oh, wait, I can't pay myself. I have to serve these other people. I have to motivate people. If they're not motivated, they're not going to pay me. I'm not going to
Mm-hmm.
get any other jobs. And so that's when I started really appreciating the fact that, you know, I control my financial management, but technically speaking, other people control my income. So I have to serve them to create the income, and then it's my job thereafter to manage it. And then being a personal development, you know, in the industry and trying to motivate and trying to connect, what then ended up happening was I realized I had to get better. So I picked back up karate as that was always a physical activity I enjoyed the most. So, I used to run, I used to gym, I used to do all sorts of other things, swimming. And I was just like, no, but I love karate, I love fighting, I love combat sports. So I got back into that.
Looking at
I
you, I
joined,
wouldn't even know that.
yeah, I joined Toastmasters. Toastmasters became like my formal training ground for speaking.
Yeah.
And I've won a lot of awards in Toastmasters. Triple Crown, which is what you get when you complete three designations within a year. I was awarded Toastmaster of the Year for Jamaica. I was international speech champion for the Caribbean, and been club president multiple times. area director, which is somebody in charge of multiple clubs, once, and I've achieved what Toastmasters has as like the highest honor for any member, which is Distinguished Toastmaster, meaning I've completed everything that they have set out that can be completed.
How long did that take, by the way, for you?
For me, it took 7 years. Some people it takes them shorter, some people it takes longer. It's actually, that in and of itself is a funny story if we were to talk about Toastmasters specifically. Because I came out of the gates really hot, and let's say there's 7 things that you need to finish. In my first year, I finished 5 of the 7. It took me 6 more years to finish the other 2.
Oh, that's so. What was that? What was that?
Well, one of the things you have to do is you have to do bigger projects. The first 5 are kind of just about delivering speeches, doing stuff in your club, being an executive of your club. So if you do all of that, you're good. The other ones, I just decided I was going to do the harder elements because like I'm not getting anything from this. This is too easy. I need to do the harder thing. So I did what's called a youth development program, where I went into schools and taught kids communication and leadership skills over, I think it was a 9-week period. The problem was finding a school that would help facilitate that. So it took me a long time to find a school that would work with me, funnily enough, you know. The second thing I had to do is I had to start a new club. And that was an issue. I tried 3 different times with 3 different groups, and it would always start really well, and then something would happen and it would fall apart. But eventually I was able to create a new club with Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade. And then the last one is I had to do what's called a leadership project. So some people do an easy leadership project where they kind of just do a little thing and say, yeah, I was a leader there. But I said, if I'm going to do a leadership project, I want something that's going to be beneficial to me for the long term. So I combined my Toastmasters leadership project with a business project that I kept putting off. And I did the 2 of them together, which was the How to Speak and Get Paid webinar that I did last year. So that was my final project I had to do, which completed the Toastmasters journey. So those 3 projects took me 6 years to knock out.
Sounds like a really interesting journey still. The school that you started those clubs at, was it JC?
I did work, no, the first school I did work with was Campion. And then I did some work with Arden. And then after doing those 2 programs, I then went and did a private program with JC. I did work with Wolmer's many moons ago on public speaking, but it was only a 1 session.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. We'll talk about
big part of personal development. There's nobody in personal development who won't tell you, you need to believe in something bigger than yourself. Because if you are the biggest thing, then every flaw you have gets magnified 20 times. Because there's nothing bigger than you. But when you realize there's something bigger than you, it's almost like it gives you permission to be imperfect.